Your rock and roll.
Anytime.
Hey, welcome to the Wantrepreneur Journey, where we are dedicated to inspiring you and just bringing you great content to encourage you to step out and to live your dreams. I am here in the country of Texas. Yes, the country, not the state. You need to make that distinction, with none other than the Joel Boggess. Joel, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, well, thanks for coming by the studio. It's so good to see you. I'm glad you were able to make time to fit us into your schedule.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this interview for so long. We've been emailing back and forth and finally get to come out into his lovely studio and to sit down and really to pick his brain and to bring you guys some great content, again, to inspire you to step out and live your dreams. So I hope you've got your notepads out and your seatbelt on, because it's going to be one heck of a ride here with Joel, who is a radio host, an author, and a life coach. So we're going to jump right in. Joel, if you could start off with just giving us Joel in a nutshell and just telling us a little bit about what you do.
Sure, I'll be happy to, and thanks for giving me the opportunity. Really, my journey as an at-risk child started for me when I was about age 3. My parents separated and then divorced, and then shortly thereafter, when I was living with my mom, we didn't have any money. There was a period of time there when we survived on not much more than food stamps and $100 gift, $100 a month gift. Wow. From one of our relatives. And so times were very, very tough early in my life. And then shortly thereafter, at age 5, I had a near-death accident that involved a train trestle, a bridge. It was 30 foot tall, a train, heroic and divine intervention by medical teams and God, and a long recovery process. And when I came out of my coma at age 6, I had a lot of relearning to do. And I had to learn a lot of things that kids my age 6 at the time, already knew. And while that was going on, and as hard as that was for me, my folks, my mom and my dad, were actually trying to rebuild their lives, because they were in that all too common struggle of going from an intact family to now being single parents.
Okay.
So they were trying to recover as best they could. Not to mention they had a kid that for a time they didn't know from one day to the next if I was going to live or not. So while I was going through my own recovery, I had to actually watch my parents wrestle with a lot of the demons that they were battling with. For my dad, it was the usual demons that are common to men, like sex and drugs and alcohol and things of that nature. And then my mom had those same kind of demons going on in her life, but she also got involved in destructive, abusive relationship that actually lasted from the time I was 6 to the time I was a young teenager. And as I watched that and had a front row seat into watching both my parents kind of wrestle with their own destructive behaviors, I saw people that did not understand who they were.
Okay.
They didn't understand that they had value to them. They didn't understand that there was a voice that was within them that was desperately trying to get out. And it took years and years for them to understand that at a different level. And as you can imagine, that left a powerful, powerful mark on me.
Absolutely.
And that, Ty, is what gave me that burning desire, that I can't help it desire to want to help people find their voice, to really get a hold on and an understanding of why they were put here.
Yeah. Sure.
And that's, in a nutshell, that was kind of how it started for me. And once I really was able to capture why it was so powerful for me to want to help people grow and develop and look and understand more about who they are. Once I learned that, then it became like gosh, this is something I have to do.
Yeah.
It's not something I want to do. I have to do it because it's a part of me.
That's great, John. I think that resonates so much with our audience when you talk about finding that voice. And I love that name for your radio show, for your company, about finding your voice. And you talked about the struggles sort of overshadowing and, in a sense, burying and really covering up that voice, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And let me back up a little bit here. And when we talk about finding your voice, we're not obviously talking about the voice that comes out of your mouth, but we're talking about the voice that comes out of your heart.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that I've learned after years of working with people from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the high school student to the six-figure earner, I've learned that people have a hunger within them to fully express who they are, what excites them, and what they stand for.
Okay.
And once people get clarity
Yeah.
on some of those things, it is absolutely empowering. It's like releasing magic dust in the air.
Yeah, yeah.
And when it settles on things, it changes the way everything looks. And
Can I just get you to cover those three things again? Who they are, what excites them,
what they
and
stand
what they stand for.
Right. Those are those are the components that make up a person's voice.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
once they really get understanding and clarity
Okay.
on what those are,
Yeah.
when they get clarity, they get confidence.
Hmm.
When they get confidence, they get direction.
Hmm.
And that's what people are looking for today,
Yeah.
more so than ever before.
Yeah.
Because this is a constantly changing world. So people are not only hungry for, but they're eager
Yeah.
to find direction. And what I've learned is that C plus C equals D every time. Clarity plus confidence equals direction.
Love it.
And I've seen that over and over and over again. Once a person is courageous enough to be real with themselves.
Clarity plus confidence equals direction.
Every time.
Write that down. That is pure gold. And now, your own personal story as well. Share with our viewers how you came to find your own voice, because you haven't always been doing this, and the majority of our audience is really made up of folks who are trying to find their voice. They're working this 9 to 5 and they've buried up their dream, and now they feel in some ways that they're stuck or it's too late. But it really is never too late to find your voice, right?
It's never too late to find your voice, and it's also not a destination. It's a journey.
That's great.
And when I work with people, Ty, and I help them understand that it's not like a finish line,
Okay.
but it's a journey that people grow into, then it takes the pressure off them.
Yeah, yeah.
And it takes a little bit of practice, because people are raised, and society today raises us in a performance-driven society. Like, gosh, you've got to get this done by tomorrow. You've got to get this done by next week.
Okay.
And so a lot of times people approach the finding your voice concept of that, gosh, I've got to figure this out tomorrow, or I've got to figure this
Yeah.
out next week. But gently, once you introduce to people that, no, it doesn't have to be such a condensed time, but it can actually be over the course of your entire life. Well, once you help people understand that, that takes a lot of pressure
Okay.
off. And then people start to realize that, oh my gosh, you mean I can kind of learn this throughout my life? I don't have to have this by a certain period of time? And, no, you don't. And what people realize is they'll learn a little bit more about who they are and their voice over time.
Okay.
Not through just the course of the coaching,
Yeah.
but through their life even after
Okay.
we have a chance working together.
Yeah, that's really good. Now, walk us through how that played out in your life personally, because what you did in college wasn't necessarily leading you towards what you're doing now, correct?
Right. Well, yes and no, because I believe that everything that you do has little bits and pieces of clues
Okay.
in it. And here's what I mean. When you kind of look over my life, as a high school student and as a teenager, I was a karate instructor. As a college kid, I was a swim teacher. As a young adult, I was a personal fitness trainer. And while that sounds like a bunch of unrelated activities and exercises, really it's all part of helping people overcome challenges,
Okay.
recognize their value, and to harness their strengths.
Hmm.
Okay, that's what it all is. And the big aha for me wasn't that I was on fire, passionate, or even any good at teaching people the mechanics of this activity or that activity. The big aha for me was that I was on fire about helping people do what I've said: overcome challenges, recognize their value, harness their strengths. And once I realized that that was a part of what really made me tick, that's when I was able to understand more
Okay.
of who I was. And then I was able to really get some clarity, confidence, direction on, okay, now how do I want to arrange my business and my life
Yeah.
for the next season?
Okay.
Tapping into everything that I've learned
Yeah.
in the past, all of the karate experiences that I've had, the personal training experiences that I've had. How could I take all that knowledge that I've learned about me
Okay.
and use it today to help me coach people, write books, do radio shows, things of that nature?
That is great wisdom to give, even though those things aren't specifically related to what you're doing now. There was some sort of a thread running through them where you were
Yes.
able to pick out the things that you were really passionate about.
Absolutely. And when I think back about what I really enjoyed doing, it was about the difference that I was making for those students in any activity.
Okay.
And the changes that were happening within them. And I'm privileged today to see those changes happen in the clients that I work with. They could be 40, they could be 50, they could be 60, they could be starting over again after a relationship breakup, or they could be starting for the first time right out of college. But it's helping them make the difference in themselves in a way that has meaning and value.
So for those that feel like they're stuck doing something they absolutely hate, would your advice be to them that there may still be something in that could point them towards what it is that they're passionate about?
Well, not only that, but there probably is
Okay.
something in what they're doing now
Okay.
that pertains to their voice. Let me give you a perfect example. I've got a client of mine, and she's a labor and delivery nurse. And being a nurse, and I'm not a nurse, never have been, but she has that caring, warm, compassionate spirit about her. So what she decided in her teenager logic at the time was, okay, I'm caring, I'm compassionate, I love people. That means I must be a nurse. That occupational category sounds like I need to be a caregiver.
Uh-huh.
And really what she learned as we went through the coaching process is that it's not about for being a nurse or going through those mechanics. Remember I used that word, mechanics?
Okay.
But it was about her bringing healing and comfort and security to people. So what she learned, her first name was Brittany, what she learned is that it wasn't about having a particular occupation,
Okay.
but it was about really understanding who she was, a caring, compassionate person, and then looking at, okay, well, what excites me about how I can do that,
Yeah.
how I can bring that,
Yeah.
those gifts to people. And she right now is in the process of still doing nursing, but she's also in the process of learning how to use her creativity to deliver those same things.
Okay.
Caring, compassion, safety, security, things of that nature.
Yeah, it really sounds like just an intriguing and incredible approach that you have, because I think typically most people will go out and get the job and think the job will bring them closer to finding their inner voice, correct?
Well, sure.
But the method that you're talking about is really finding what excites you, finding that voice, and then that breaking down the walls to then pursue what that career may be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to find out really who you are first, and then look for, okay, how can I apply that in ways that make sense financially, emotionally, and also spiritually.
So how did you break out of that mold? How did you come to this aha moment? What were you doing beforehand? Walk us through where you were struggling to find that voice, and when you did come to that tipping point, that light bulb moment.
Sure. I've had a lot of jobs in my life, and one job in particular, I remember I worked for a bank. I worked for Bank One when I was still in business, and I was a recruiter for Bank One. And so basically my job was to fill the bank with warm bodies, tellers and bankers and people that work in a bank.
Okay.
But here's the thing, I wasn't interested in just finding warm bodies that could punch a time clock.
Yeah.
What I did is I did exactly the opposite. Instead of just taking in a new class of people, weeding through them, figuring out who we could hire, who we couldn't hire, I actually went straight to the people, the people that were interested in working there, trying to find fits for them.
Okay.
Trying to figure out, okay, well, how can I best use your skills? How can you best use your skills? What makes sense? And as you can imagine, that job didn't last long for me because I was doing exactly the opposite of what they originally hired me for. Yeah, they hired me because they wanted me to go out and find X number of people and plug them in. But I wasn't interested in doing that. I wanted to value the individual. And I wanted to help them find the best use of what they had to offer. And that was a very, very pivotal moment. And I've always been doing that.
Yeah. So you just left the bank, and then did you go straight into pursuing what you're doing now?
Pretty close.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Okay. What would you say would be perhaps one of your biggest obstacles in stepping out of that safe and that really comfortable role? I mean, a lot of people seem to have that struggle. If they were working at a bank, you've got your income steadily coming in and things are comfortable. How did you break out of that? And was there an obstacle that you came to that you had to overcome?
Well, my wife and I we had to come to an agreement that I had to do something on my own because I had tried for many, many years trying to fit myself in a box, in a corporate box, and trying to follow guidelines and procedures and policies that other people developed. And that was just never a fit for me, even before I went to college. I think differently than just coloring in between the lines or staying, right here.
Yeah.
And that's just me. That's part of my personality. And once I understood that that's okay, that's who I am. That's part of my voice.
Yeah.
Once I understood that, then Pei and I knew that we had to harness that, we had to tap into it, and we had to let what I couldn't not do be the catalyst that would help me build my business.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think so many people would resonate with that. Feeling like they're cramped and being squeezed into a box that is completely not them. Or what I do want to ask is, what are some immediate steps that you took that you'd be able to share with some of our viewers? They're stuck right now. They're connecting with everything that you're saying. They're saying, Joel, I feel like that's me. What do I need to do? What would you say would be some immediate steps to take?
Immediate step is really understand who you are. And here's an easy way to do that. You can go to my website. You can go to fyvbook.com, and you can download all of the resources that are a part of the Finding Your Voice book.
Okay.
Download them all for free. And there's a worksheet in there, and I call it, What Do They Know? And I love this worksheet. I use it with all my coaching clients, and I use it on the first session. And on this one page, it's probably 2 pages, but on this 2-page worksheet, 5 simple questions, and they're not questions for the person being coached. It's questions that they email out to their family members, their friends, and their loved ones, people that'll tell them the truth. And the reason I do that, Ty, is because a lot of times other people in our circle notice things within us that we don't notice about ourselves because we're so involved in who we are.
Yeah.
And so, and that is a game changer right there. People will email them out, and then I'll encourage people to forward them back to me so that we can build on them. It's completely up to them if they do.
Yeah.
But there's just been so many game-changing moments when people latch on to something that somebody else noticed that they just like, well, gosh, I never thought anything about that. But it can turn a light switch right there. So that's one of the first steps that I do. It's easy. You don't have to sign up for coaching or a long relationship. You can just download the quick worksheet and email it to your friends, and that's a great conversational piece.
Yeah.
You can go over that with your coach if you're working with one. You can go over that with the people that you've been working with, or that have helped you with this. Another thing that you can do, which I recommend highly, is that people take some type of personality assessment.
Okay.
You can take the DISC. I use that with all my coaching clients. You can use the Strength Finders. You can use the Myers-Briggs. There's a ton of them on the market, and they're all good in their own way. But figure one out and take it, because the information that you learn about yourself is it can make a difference.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned, and research kind of backs me up in this, is that as people grow in age, wisdom, and maturity, they generally grow more into who they are. They generally become more of who God created them to be. And for some people, that's challenging.
Yeah.
To realize that, because all of their life, what have they heard? Well, they've heard, you need to be more like this person. Or, well, you need to be more like your sister. Or you need to be more like your brother.
Yeah.
Or you need to be more like the guy down the hall.
Yeah.
With the big office. People have heard that for their entire life. So what do most people do? Just because they don't know any better, they try to change.
Okay.
And as well as I know, how good that works. It usually doesn't. Right, it usually doesn't.
Yeah.
And so what research has told us, and I've seen it tie over and over and over again, is that as people grow, they generally become more of who they are.
Okay.
And when people grasp that idea, then once we're going through the DISC or the Strength Finders or one of those things, and people start to really understand some of their strengths, some of their personality characteristics, some of their values, then once they realize that those are going to become stronger as they grow, then all of a sudden they can embrace them.
Yeah.
And that's part of finding your voice. Not just accepting who you are, embracing who you are.
That's pure gold, not accepting but embracing. I love what you said about growing into who you are, and I feel like what finding your voice is about, and really what the entrepreneur journey is about, is really making that happen as soon as possible, right? As you said, as we grow in age, we grow in wisdom and really growing
spiritual maturity.
Yeah, that maturity. And a lot of times in life, I think we can be taken off track. But that's what we're about today. That's what Joel is about, is really making that moment happen as soon as possible so you can spend more time enjoying who you are, and instead of wandering aimlessly and listening to those other voices, correct?
Oh, absolutely. The world is full of voices that will give you their opinion, and people are eager to tell you how it should be. But really, when you start to surround yourself with people who will lift you and to support your inner voice, that's when things start happening.
Okay.
I was on the radio. I was on a show, I don't know, a month or so ago, and a lot of the listeners had written in with questions, and one lady in particular, her question was, how can I silence all these voices? I'm around so much negativity, I'm around so much family disharmony and things of that nature. And her question to me, sincere question, was, Joel, how do I deal with it? How do I silence these voices? And my response to her surprised her, and it's probably going to surprise you too. But I told her, I said, you know what? You don't. You don't. Yeah. You don't, because what's going to happen? You try to silence, or you try to introduce a different way of looking at it, and then all of a sudden, it becomes a boxing match.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It becomes a sparring match. I mean, when you have a certain opinion, and another person has a certain opinion, it's going to frustrate both people because, for the most part, people are very entrenched into what they believe,
Yeah.
into what they think. So if you share an idea with someone, you got to be careful with who you share with, because what you think is sharing might turn into nothing but a sparring match.
Huh.
And that exhausts everyone.
Yeah, I think you've given a lot of people a game changer just right now. I mean, being caught up in trying to silence a voice ends up leading you into a sticky conflict, correct?
That takes up all your energy.
Okay.
So who has time for personal growth when I'm too busy just trying to guard myself from all the shots that are coming at me?
That's huge.
So my recommendation to that caller was, you know what? They're going to continue to throw their fists, to yell, to scream, to have their point of view.
Okay.
Let them.
Okay.
Let them tire themselves out. But you, on the other hand, find a better group. Upgrade your group.
Okay.
Find people that will love you, support you, that will believe in you, and that will give you energy. Because life is hard enough.
Yeah.
But being surrounded by a group that's continually beating you down, stomping on your dreams, that would be impossible for anyone to rise above that occasion. However, if you remove yourself from that and get into a better group, start surrounding yourself with people that also share your values and your beliefs.
Okay.
Now that's the difference maker.
Okay, so to recap on those three things that you shared, the first one is to sorry, what was the first one?
What being around?
No,
So not silence.
no. The second one was the personality. To figure out your personality.
Reaching out. The reaching out.
Okay, and there was one before that you talked about reaching out. So sending out these emails to people outside of you to help you determine some of your key gifts and key talents that you've become blind to.
I'll send you the worksheet. You just have that as a resource. But yeah,
and we'll give the viewers a link to that also.
It is powerful, and the people that participate in that exercise, they're reinforced by what they already knew about themselves, but also often they're caught off guard by, wow, I thought everybody could do that.
Yeah.
And that continues to amaze people.
Yeah, that's great. So reaching out, getting an outside perspective, figuring out what your personality type is, and that third one you mentioned is surrounding yourself with a community that's going to uplift you and encourage you to do that.
Yeah. Darren Hardy, a friend of mine, said that environment is always stronger than willpower. So if you put yourself in an environment where you have clarity on your gifts, you have an understanding of your style, and you have the confidence of being surrounded by people that know, like, and support you, then you're going to have that direction of where you need to go. It's the environment that is stronger than willpower or anything else.
Yeah, that's really great. Now, what advice would you have for someone that perhaps has come to that point where they just had enough and walked out of their job, and so they're caught in the struggle of having to make ends meet? So they've got the financial burden, but they've had enough and they've left their job. What if they had maybe a 2-month time frame of really setting their dream in motion and being able to make a living from living the dream? Do you have any advice for that situation?
Sure, that's a great question too. The first thing is, don't put your family in a hardship, especially if you're in a relationship or in a marriage, because the last place you want your spouse is on the other side of your dream.
Yeah.
Or your partner. So don't do something that's going to jeopardize or put your relationship at a hardship. Talk together and come to some kind of an agreement. Now, if a person is gainfully employed, I would encourage them to begin to explore their voice, but still, at least for the meantime, hold on to the job that they're on, because if that's a necessity, then let's keep that intact, and then let's start to buy our time of what can we explore in. And if we want to do something on the side, like a side hustle, is what I like to call it.
Okay.
Well, then start doing that on a part-time or hobby basis.
Okay.
Like for instance, let's say someone likes to do podcasting, and they're thinking about, well, I want to do podcasting or video casts for a living. Well, that's great, and boy, I'm a big proponent of that idea too. However, if you can't jump into it immediately and earn a six-figure income, well, then you might want to start it out as a hobby and let it grow. And then as it grows, you'll learn, and you'll be able to do more and more things. And then when you build your income up to a certain percentage, for a lot of people it's 50% of what you've been earning, that's when you can start to look at, okay, how do I gradually ease into that situation, and then start to let go of the job that you've already had.
Yeah. No, that's...
One of my friends, Deb and Gino, you can go to strengthleader.com to learn about her. That's exactly what she did. She was earning six figures a year as a corporate executive, and she wanted to go into coaching.
Okay.
And that's a great idea, and I'm all for that too. However, she did it in a smart way. She started doing that as a hobby, and then as a part-time job, and then once she got her income up to a certain level, she was able to step more into the coaching and step away from her corporate, but she didn't do it all at once. And that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice to, you don't have to wait to finish where you're at to really begin living the dream. You can begin to put those wheels into motion, even if you are in a situation where you're frustrated with where you're at.
Well, your dream can be a hobby for now.
Okay.
Your dream, you can start your dream as a hobby, then it becomes a hobby job, and then it can become your vocation.
That's really good. That's great advice, Joel. Now, is there anything personally you'd do differently if you walked through the whole steps of you being where you're at now? Is there anything that you wish I perhaps shouldn't have done that, or I'd go a different route at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I would have followed the advice that I just gave you.
Yeah.
I would have gradually moved into the world of podcasting and radio shows and coaching and things of that nature, and I didn't, because I didn't understand that was a possibility.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that put Pei and I, my wife, that put us into some not arguments, but some intense discussions. And that's that was a big mistake.
Yeah.
That we made, and I take full ownership of that, because that's something that I wanted. So I thought, well, I have to jump full into it 100%. But now looking back, I've been doing this for 8 years, we would be probably in a whole different place, probably further along with our radio shows, with our business building and our income, had I took little, what I like to call, safety steps.
Okay.
And I didn't. But looking back, I definitely should have, and I would have been a smarter businessman had I gradually kind of eased my feet and my legs into the pool. I didn't do that, but
yeah, well, we're so thankful that you shared that. I hope you wrote that down, taking those safety steps. That is great advice. And now, as we head to a close of the interview, I want to just firstly thank you for your transparency, and the advice you've given is just one piece of gold after one piece of gold, and really just to give of your time so freely to our viewers. Thank you so much, Joel.
You bet. Been a pleasure.
But three questions I like to end with, and that I ask everyone: what do you want to be remembered for in life?
Sure. I was at a live event, and I actually wrote my own eulogy, and I'm not going to find that. I know exactly where it is, but I won't read it. But in the end, in my eulogy, I'm paraphrasing here, I wanted to be the guy that, because I was here, people have experienced healing from generational wounds, that they have found hope in hopeless situations, and they have found confidence in what was at one time a weakened condition. And I also want to be the guy that has been able to help people find clarity in confusion and mixed messages.
That is wonderful. Who would you say would be the greatest influence on your life?
Okay, sure. That's a great question. I would say, outside of God, outside of Christ, I would say that my two biggest influential people have been my friend and mentor, Dan Miller. Dan and Joanne have been our friends since day one. And they have watched us grow. We've watched them grow. We've developed a wonderful relationship, and without a doubt, it was Dan and Joanne, both of them together. And then I would say Darren Hardy and the people at Success Magazine have just been huge for me on many different levels.
Oh, thank you. And last question, what is your definition of success?
Sure, boy, that is a great question. Didn't see that coming. I think success and a successful business is doing what you love to do for people that love what you do for them.
That's a great definition. Joel, what are some ways that viewers can connect with you? And actually, could you share a little bit about your book and give us the website to jump on? And if anyone wants to reach out to you, please share with us some ways to connect.
Sure. Easiest place to go is my website, and that's fyvbook.com. fyvbook.com stands for Finding Your Voice Book.com. And there you can read all of our testimonials. You can download all of our free resources. Of course, you can buy the book there off Amazon or your favorite online retailer, and that's where you can connect. You can also go to fyvradio.com. There you can do pretty much all the same thing. And we also have a weekly show. This is on fire about this. I'm glad you were able to come here today, because beginning next week, which will be 2014, starting on the 2nd, we are taking our show from a recorded 2-3 time a week podcast, and we are actually taking that, this is crazy, we're taking that to a Monday through Friday live show.
No way.
50 minutes a day during peak time, 7 p.m. Central. That's 5 in the West, killer. 8 in the East, also killer. And then, of course, in Central Time, 7, also killer. And we're going to be syndicated on 2 additional stations. Plus, all of our shows will be on iHeartRadio, which is huge for us. And that's what I'm on fire, passionate about that. You can just go to our website. You can connect right there to iHeartRadio and our shows, and everything is right there. So I'm really excited about that, and perfect timing for you to swing by. So thanks.
Yeah, some incredible things coming up for you, Joel, and I love how it all goes back and stems to just finding your voice and encourage you to step out and to do that. And everything that's happening in Joel's life has been a result of this. And so also check out our show notes. We're going to have everything that we've discussed, all of those golden nuggets that Joel has thrown out is going to be on www.entrepreneurjourney.com. So check out the site for show notes. But Joel, is there any final word you'd like to say to our viewers?
This is something I say pretty much at the end of every podcast that I do, and that is my encouragement to listeners, and that is to listen to your voice. No one else can hear it. Tell your story. No one else can speak it. Run after your passion, because no one else can catch it. Being true to the person that you were created to be is the best gift you'll ever give to yourself, your family, the world, and to God.
Joel Boggess, thank you so much for your time.
It's been fun. Thanks.
Done.
All right, and we just got a warning right there. So
Yeah.
that was good timing.
I think I got
Do you have my phone?